With your last name being Dortch, have you ever thought that your grandfather's a Nazi?
I haven't. I usually get called, most people can't pronounce it right.
What is it?
It's Dortch. Like, you said it right. Yeah. You know, people, like, I literally be at shows like Dortchy. One guy called me Robert Porch. I just didn't go up on stage for the longest time, trying to make it like a statement. I was like, that's definitely, there's no P in the name.
Yeah, I think somebody, I was at El Charo's and the person, it was their first time going up, and the guy said, Dan Green, and it was Dan Greeny. And then their buddy in the crowd's like, say his name right. I was like, bro, chill the fuck. And he kept saying it like, respect his name. I was like, you guys, this is like...
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. That's the same energy that guy had.
Yeah, and a person, I'm just like, yo, this is like the 60th person this guy's introduced on stage. Like, give him a break.
English is hard. Let's not do it. And like, it's gotta be pressure to be on stage. And you're like, and then it's, oh, fuck me. Why? Just, John. What's his last name? John. You know who you are. It's John. Come on stage.
Yeah, the first time I hosted, I was so fixated on like what joke I'm gonna tell to kind of transition the comic. I forgot the comic's name, and I was like, big white guy with a beard, come up on stage. He's like, it's Arthur. I'm like, sorry, Arthur.
It's a common name. It's just, what was it? Philip. Nope, I could have got that. All right, never mind.
Do you feel, I'm not sure if now, but ever since like that Will Smith thing, I'm not sure if we're videotaping more and more people are hopping up on stage.
Funniest story about that. So when the Will Smith thing happened, everyone had the same reaction. Like, is this real? Is this not real? And someone told me, they were like, he just made this job 20 times harder for comedians. He was like, everyone's gonna approach the stage now. I was like, no, that's never gonna happen. That's never happened to one of my shows. Like, I go back and forth with banter with people. I've like, people have tried to heckle me. I've turned that into jokes, or like I've calmed them down and heckling. I've never been approached by anyone. That happened. I found that out on maybe a Saturday. That Sunday I had a show, and that exact thing happened. I was like, oh my God, they were completely right. So I did a show. I think I was fourth in the lineup. I was backstage. I always watched like the last minute of the comic before me. I don't know why it's a weird thing that I just do. Like, I'm superstitious like that. So when I go up on stage, I do my set. There was like a drunk party of 6. And we all kind of knew that collectively going in, because there was stumbling in when we walked in. They were kind of being loud. The guy before me was like, hey, please shut the fuck up. Like, everyone took jabs at them. So I go up there, and I never really have an open. My open usually is like, I freestyle it for like a 30 seconds to a minute, see what's going on, and then I go into my set. So
you never do that, or you usually do that?
I always do that. Okay. Like, I never have a set open. So, and it's really, like, sometimes I'll be like, okay, cool, because I'll figure out real quick, like, oh, we're not doing crowd work today. Like 15, I'm like, we're doing all jokes. Or if it goes great, I'm 8 minutes in, and I'm like, cool, we're just gonna do this today, and we'll figure it out. So it started off really well. Crowd work started really well, and then I threw in a joke about somebody in the party. She was a birthday girl, or Patrick, or whatever, the drunkest girl there, went to go throw up, and like we all saw it, and then they were making jabs at her about that. So I was like, I flipped it, and I was like, oh, I saw 2 girls go out there. So I made up a story based off that. It bombed. It completely, nobody laughed, and I was like, doing crowd work, we're doing jokes from now on. It was a good set. I get off stage, and then a guy from that party like followed me into the green room. No one said anything because they assumed that he must have known me or like something. Like, it wasn't confrontation at the point, but he was literally like around my butt. I didn't see him. I sit down on the couch, and he's like, you think you're fucking funny? It never occurred to me that this guy was confronting me. So I answered this question logically. He's like, you think you're fucking funny? And I was like, well, I hope so. Like, that was new material. I know I can do better and tighten up some of those jokes, but all in all, I think it's like a B- set. I mean, I think your party was laughing the hardest at the poop joke, which only got 3 laughs. So I was like, yeah, that could have been better. That was pretty bad. But other than that, he was like, go apologize to my fucking wife. And I was like, well, I don't think the set was that bad, sir. I don't know why I would apologize. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, yes, I've done better work, but that, like, it's this new stuff, sir. Come back next week, I'll tighten it up, and it'll be better, I swear to God. And then halfway through, someone grabbed me, and that's when it clicked that it was a confrontation. Like, I was sitting in the down, he was standing over me. He said, go fucking apologize to my fucking wife. And I was like, okay, buddy, I didn't bomb. Like, what we're not gonna do is act like I just had a badass set out there. I didn't do that. And then he was like, oh, we can handle this outside. And I was like, first off, sir, it's 92 degrees outside. So I'm definitely not going outside. I'm wearing pants. And then someone grabbed me like, Robert, calm down. And I was like, oh, this guy's trying to fight me. Oh, this is confrontational. I get it now. By the time I like matched his energy, it was way too late. I tried to act tough, and I was like, hey, fuck you, pal. Like, by that time, it was it was such a weird switch from I was like, well, I hope I'm funny, to be like, hey, and another thing, buddy. Like, it was just, it didn't.
I like how you're from Chicago and your white accent just escalated. Just, hey.
And why I oughta just comes out of there. And another thing, pal, and like I stood up and like everything got broken up. And so then we're like, I finally clicked like this is a fighting situation. So now I'm standing up, I was hey, fuck you. And so like now we're going back and forth like as probably we should have been. It probably threw him off too because I didn't match his angry energy. And
in the green room or outside?
In the green room. Mm. So then we started getting loud, and then some people that I came with, they were like, oh, we knew something was wrong because we could hear you guys, like just confrontation, yelling and stuff like that. So then the owner of the club comes back, he closed the door, he takes the guy outside, and he calms him down. The wife comes back and tries to start something with me, so then she gets taken outside in the back. And then all the comics like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, I didn't even know we were fighting until about the last 2 minutes. There are a lot of things like you've been in an argument and then you like wish you could say clever things. All that came flooding to my mind. I was like, oh my God, had I known this was the poop guy, I would have immediately made a better joke. I would have immediately been like, well, I hope she washed her hands. Like that's something, or just something more clever and like more.
It's like when I rewrite this for my biopic, this is going to be 10
exactly. I was like, what? So many jokes. I could have like made fun of this guy so much. And then I was like, the last minute. By the time I realized, I was like, it was just the casual, like, hey, fuck you, get the fuck out of my face. And I was like, I could have been way more tougher than that. I could have.
Was it, because you got banned from the club, right?
Yeah, so this fucking thing escalates into, I'm going to eventually write a story about this, but I don't know. Like, there's a funny in it, but like right now, I kind of like, I don't care anymore mode because I'm on to the next thing. So then that happens. All of us in the comic room, green room, thought he got kicked out. He had a party of 6, so now like 4 people still standing in there. I guess he was told to go in the front and just leave me alone. So he goes in the front. My friend that was in the front, I had like maybe 6 people there with me, and he said he was the one that was picking up on all these cues. He was like, I knew something was wrong because then they came back into the front door and sat behind us, and they kept talking throughout the show. And he was like, I'll beat that kid's ass. And he was like, oh, he's clearly talking about Robert. I didn't know this. So then I was told in the back, like, hey, avoid him. And I was like, as in he's still here? And he's like, yeah. I was like, well, we got 30 minutes left and he's drunk. Do you think like consciously he's gonna not try to fight me at the end of the show?
That's kind of like a fuck you to the comics, honestly. Like, why are you keeping this guy that just threatened this person's life?
So none of us, so literally like right before the show ends, he was like, hey, avoid him. And that's like, people heard that and we all were like, avoid who? And then like I look out and I was like, why is he still here? Also, credit to him for staying mad for 30 more minutes through some good sets, by the way. I forgot the headliner's name. He was funny as shit. And I don't know how after that, like 25 minutes, this guy was still pissed off. So like that guy has determination. That's mama mentality. And I give him credit for that. That's you know, it's hard to stay mad, especially through 20 minutes of real good material. So then I'm in the back. He comes in the back and he's like looking for me, but like brushes it off. He's looking for the headliner. So he goes up to the headliner, he daps him up, and then he says loud as shit in that back room. You know, the back room is small as shit.
It's a small ass club, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, and I'm in it's literally a sheet dividing the green room and then the bathroom. And so he grabs a comic and he was like, I was going to beat your black friend's ass. And I was like, well, I'm the only black kid on the entire lineup, probably in Gilbert, other than like a couple people that I brought with me. So like, he's clearly talking about me. At this point, like a trigger went off and I was like, well, let's just go fight the guy. Let's just, this is going to go downhill anyway. When I went around the corner of the room, the headliner took him outside. So then I was like, all right, fuck it. Then my friend looked at me and he was like, hey, this guy is literally just talking incredibly loud shit. I think he's like literally looking for you. And then I was like, hey, well, there's only one way to get out through the door. And so the owner of the club was like, hey, just try to avoid him. And like I rolled my eyes. I was like, that's literally impossible. You've been in that club. That's not going to happen. So we would go outside, and outside, you know how everyone kind of stands in that same little area by the little sign? Mm-hmm. So he was off to the left buying the merch from the headliner. I am now off to the right. And it's me, my friend, the host. Shout out to him. I don't want to say his name, but the host, he knows who he is. He saw everything and he ran up to me and he was like, oh, do you want me to walk you to your car? And I was like, hey, I'm not a little bitch. No. So it's like we have a crowd of people like literally now in front of me expecting something to jump off. So it's like the host, his friend was like this huge 6'1" round guy too.
What was the joke? Because you said you made a joke about his wife?
It wasn't directed at his wife. So like everyone is making direct jabs at them. My joke was a fact. I was like, hey, I saw 2 girls go back there. I thought they were gonna make out. So I like sat there like a creep. And then everyone kind of like, ha ha. Then I was like, turns out one of them had really explosive fucking diarrhea. So like, way to be a great friend. That was the joke. Yeah, D-.
All right, yeah.
D got chuckled, got the little like the nose whistle. It was one of those. And I killed it when I first opened. So I was like, all right, we're done with crowd work. I just literally lost my momentum that I built up that fast. So it was an infatuated story. inspired by the girl throwing. I didn't want to be like one of the other 4 comics that were like, we got this fucking drunk couple in the fucking back and doing the same bit over and over and over again. So I tried something, it didn't work, I moved on. So that's the other thing. I was very confused when he was literally like, apologize to my wife, and I was just like, did I make a wife joke today? And I was like, don't think I did.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, what made him just come towards you? I mean,
the host pointed out, and then like, I hate, up until the latter part of my life. So like growing up, it was always in like, I was in black communities, and it was like 1 or 2 white kids. And then like 11th grade onward, it was the exact reverse, where it's 6, 7, 8 black kids wherever I'm going, and a lot of white kids. So I was the only black kid in the lineup, and then the host was like, it seems kind of racial here. And I was like, I don't want us to do this weird, it was racist and stuff like that thing. But he pointed out the same thing you did. He was like, I literally told her to shut the fuck up and stop being a nosy bitch. And everyone laughed. He was like, you made a shitty joke, but whatever. And I was like,
literally a shitty joke.
Literally a shitty joke. So we get outside, and I knew things were gonna escalate immediately. And sure enough, he looks over at me, and he just starts screaming. He's like, you punk ass bitch, I'll beat your bitch ass, and stuff like that. He starts walking to his car, and he's screaming at us. And like, we're watching him walk off, and then like, I'm walking off, and I say like, shut the fuck up, or something like that. Like, I'm literally like, fuck this. I was like, shut the fuck up. And then he starts charging me. And I was like, well, this escalated quickly. In the room, I thought he was like 5'9", 5'10". As he charged, I was like, he's easily 6'2", 6'3". I was like, this guy looks a lot bigger when he's running full speed at you. The host's friend tackles him. My friend that like knew everything was going on starts squaring up with some of his friends. The girl that was with me drags me away. Like, it was just a whole chaos scene.
Do you think, because I think it's hard because you're shorter. I mean, like, we're like 5'9".
I'm 5'9" with my hair up.
Because I'm thinking, like, for me, when I see someone, I'm like, maybe I could take them just because of my length and just like throw them into a wall. But with you, you don't have like the arm length advantage. So.
I have long arms, but like, I'm only 160 pounds.
True.
Like, I'm fighting off pure heart. Like, and also the other thing, this is my thought process. I was like, one drunk guy, you're not thinking. So as long as he doesn't grab me, I'm fine. I was like, we tripped. So like, if I get a good dodge out the way, I'm just gonna throw my mightiest super stand punch, and we'll see where it goes from there. I was also like, even if he starts beating me up, my friend's here, so that's an easy knockout for him, because he's gonna come up from behind him and start beating the guy's ass. So I was like, either way, I'll probably have to take 2 to 3 punches, and we'll call it a day.
Did the club owner do anything to defend you during that? Maybe if he lunged at you?
He specifically said, and I sent an email to him about this, which was crazy, right when all this jumped off. So all hell was breaking loose. Like I said, my girl's dragging me to the side. She's like, calm down, calm down. He gets tackled. Everyone's yelling. My friend's squaring up with his other friends. The host and like, everyone's like, it's just pure chaos, and everyone's screaming, yada, yada, yada. The first thing he said to me, because I got pushed like back into him by the door, he was like, I told you to avoid him. And like, I turned at him, and I started screaming at him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So then like, I'm yelling at him, and all this is happening. And then someone was like, bring all the comics inside. And so now I'm getting dragged into the club. I guess my friend and them got into it, which is why then my friend got banned, who's also a comic. And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I guess they got into it outside during this. I missed all of that. I was already dragged inside. And then we got dragged inside. It got broken up. At some point, the wife was coming towards us. I do remember this vividly. So I was like kind of going back and forth with him when he said that comment. And she's still in front of me holding me. And then the wife is walking towards us. And I turned around. My thought process was like I don't think she's gonna hit us. Like, I think she's just yelling. But I was like, what is my course of action when she like crosses the like threshold of like?
It's because I've been in that situation recently. Like, a girl, like, she took my hat and she was like coming at me and shit like that. And it's just like, you know, I grabbed my hat back and she held on, so I pushed her back and I pushed her like on her neck, and she's like, don't you fucking choke me. And I'm like, this is like a lose-lose situation.
Exactly.
Like,
I was like, if I do nothing and then she gets violent, I was like, but then if there's like that weird threshold where you have to make a decision. It's like, if she crossed that threshold and I react in a negative or violent way, I'm not seen as protecting my girl or me or our safety.
An abuser, just like that's your title.
Literally, the whole incident of the night wouldn't be Robert got charged or ran up on. The incident, it immediately flips now to Robert punched a girl. And that's immediately. So then I'm literally having all these thoughts running through my head. I was like, at what point do I like go to push her? Do I tell my girl like hit her? Or like what do I'm like, what do we do when she crosses that threshold of like, I have to make a decision? So now I froze again, because now I'm thinking, I was like, should I tell my girl to hit her? Should I at least step in front of her and push her? Should I start yelling back at her? And she just screamed, was like, you little prick, you little bitch ass bitch. And I was like, so she's coming in violent. I was like, I don't think she'll hit me, but you don't ever want to go into a situation like that. That's how you get hit. He's like, what happened? Why'd she whoop your ass? I just didn't think she would hit me, and then she walked in front of me and spit in. Like, so I'm trying to make up that decision. I don't know what even stopped that. I think by then someone started pulling me literally into the club because I was like I had to make a decision in like 3 seconds of like what we're gonna do here to handle the situation. So then when we're in there, someone calls the cops.
Cop works there.
The owner of the club who's like, what happened? Which then I was like, what do you saw? Like, what do you think happened? You were told what happened in the back. You literally saw what happened out here. So then I'm mad there. The host explained, he was like, this is not Robert's fault, yada, yada, yada. So then he's like, whatever, I'm calling my friends so I figure out where he at. My friend said he was outside and he wanted to fight them more, but he was like, it was 8 of them and I realized that none of you guys were outside. So he was like, I was talking shit to them and he was like, this is the numbers game, I'm going to lose this.
Do you take into account the part of Arizona you're in as far as, this part probably holds more guns than usual? Because it's a white ass area.
It is. It's, I didn't think about all that. In retrospect, it's funny now, obviously, I think, because, it's what we do and we can find humor in practically anything. And I think it helps ease it. But it could have gone left extreme, like you said. So that area is a very, very high class, high middle class area. It's a very
because it already sounds like, not saying like this, it just sounds targeted. Like it just sounds so targeted.
I'm never gonna back those claims, only because as a black man I never want to be that guy who's racist.
It's not that, but like,
or like you said, or anything like that. So like I said, I think people are, I don't know why. I can't, and it's not really my job or place to even say why. I think if you get stuck on the why, then we're gonna be doing this forever. Like, why did this happen? Why did I don't know? Why am I in this situation? I don't know why it happened. It just happened.
Because I just know personally, my buddy, she moved into a place over in Anthem, and she's just there for a few months. But she's like, I don't like it here. Like, it's just white as fuck. Like, because she's like Hispanic. Like, I'm the only Hispanic person here, and not that they care, but it just feels weird. And I could tell, like, I don't know, if you're doing comedy in Arizona, especially like in Gilbert, I don't know if you have a feeling, it's just like, wow, I'm literally the only black person in a room full of 100 people.
I have I have experience with that. But like I said, once I hit high school, I had the joke I put up on Instagram, the animated one, like, that's true, where I graduated high school with 5 black kids and 2 black kids, but we had 3 mixed kids, so we just called them black because like we need numbers so bad. Like when I went to college, it was a small college, but like all of us played football. We're on the football team, we're on the basketball team. Other than that, it's not. I mean, we were 6% of the school. So my adult life, I've been in situations like that, and then it's upsetting to say most of the positions of power, or when I'm in rooms of power, I am always a minority, or it's me and like people like the guy I'm always with, and he's a person of power. But when we're in rooms, it's like me, him, one of the guys looks like us, and then white people. So I'm very comfortable with it because I'm very used to it. From 16 to I'm 27 now, I've been in a lot of situations like that. I understand that, like, I'm a young black man. I have dreads. I have all these tattoos and things like that. So I know common perception initially is going to be like, and I say I'm from Chicago, or like, and like.
How do you feel like when they say, because there's this thing that you can look up professional haircuts and they're all Caucasian haircuts, and then you look up unprofessional haircuts and they're all like African haircuts, like yours?
Oh my God, I've been all the hairstyles for black guys. I had afro, braids, twists. This happened by accident during quarantine. I just sponged my hair and we couldn't get a haircut for 2-3 months, and so it grew out and locked and then it fell, and I was like, I guess this is what we're doing. Like, eventually I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'm gonna cut off at some point in time, but I've done all the haircuts for that. I had a high top in college from my sophomore year till I graduated, and I cut it off to like the casual buzz cut. In fear of, I was like, I already have tattoos. I want to get my ears pierced. And I was like, and stuff like that. Didn't get a job for 6 months. And I was like, well, like, it's not like here. Like right now I work for a very corporate job, and it's one of the biggest retailers in the whole West Coast and stuff like that. I interview with dreads and tattoos and things like that. And so it's a superstition that, like, I don't think I'm ever gonna live to see a time where we outgrow that.
Do you think, because how old are you?
I'm 27. I just turned 27.
Do you think it's a thing, because you've been in, I'll say like full-time in the workforce, maybe like 7 years since you went to college and shit. Do you think it's become more acceptable where people are like, we want more inclusion and shit like that?
100%. And I think some of the reason behind it may be jaded, but again, you can't really look at the why.
So we got a W, we'll take it.
Exactly. Like, I do, like, my college had a diversity group or inclusion section or something like that that was made in our junior years where we can bring up complaints and stuff like that. And I've been graduated I graduated in 2018. Up until 2 years ago, my picture was still used in pamphlets. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And so like that was one of the things we called out. And then one of my peers at the time, he was just like, this is odd to me that you're using his picture for inclusion in that sense. Like, black people go here. Look, Robert. And I was like, I haven't been there. I don't go to any of the alumni events. I don't go to any, like I was sponsored in a little post because what I'm doing now in my professional career and it's what I went to school for. And like, oh my God, you know, that rarely happens. Well, not really, that's very common for that not to happen. So I got, you know, an article in the school and stuff like that or alumni spotlight, which was cool and all that stuff. But it was weird. I saw, you know, these freshman kids are going to school and I was like, bro, I literally graduated 4 or 5. I don't know why they're still using that picture.
Since you've come from like Midwest, I'm not sure if you spent any time on the East Coast.
So I was born in Aurora, but when I was 2, we moved to Mississippi, and I was there for 11 years. Like I said, just completely diversity switch, and then moved up to Michigan. Went to school in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Lived in Chicago for 3 years. Moved out here, and I've traveled a lot. Like that's been my whole life has been traveling. But I haven't traveled. I mean, I'm going to the East Coast next month, but I haven't really spent any extended time in the East Coast.
How is it kind of? Because even I noticed there's pockets of cultures moving from, you know, up as far as north in Alaska. We actually have a lot of diversity up there.
Which I think people just don't know about Alaska. Yeah. That's everyone's like moving about Alaska. Cold. I don't. No one knows about Alaska.
Well, the thing is, we have such a large asylum program for people that are in Africa. So we have a lot of people from Nigeria and Kenya and Sudan. Like they'll come up and they all work in Walmarts. Yeah.
I don't know why that's funny. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be laughing at that.
Yeah, it's just weird because it's just like, you know, when I go to the Walmart now and like I'm so not used to like I'm so used to seeing Africans work at Walmart, and then it's just like these old white guys and shit like that.
It's a complete flip.
Yeah. So Africans and Samoans, man, they run Walmarts like on the real, stocking for days. How is it going to like? That's what I'm saying. For me, it was weird coming from a very diverse place to Arizona, where it's just like white, and then you know sometimes in a pocket it'll be Mexican. Mm-hmm. How is it for you going from like Mississippi and then like Chicago and shit like that, or is it not noticeable?
It's super noticeable. It's not as a big melting pot here in Arizona, or maybe I'm not in the right pockets in the places that I go to. I'm sure. You know, I have a diverse friend group, but also my friends are scattered across the United States. So, you know, it also feels like a culture shift sometimes. Like the further, like, I mean, Los Angeles, pretty much anywhere in California, it feels like it's an entirely different place. It feels super, super liberal. Everyone's kind of like, we love everybody and stuff like that. And Chicago's super cool because literally is a melting pot to be in a major city like that. And then to come here where it's, and even place where I stay, it's very suburbia. But that's also where I grew up in Michigan. I lived in a very small tourist town in Michigan. So it felt extremely similar. Mm-hmm. So it's like night and day, but I've done both. Mm-hmm. And it's also like, it doesn't set up an identity crisis. That's another thing people ask me all the time. I was like, no, I'm me wherever I go.
Mm-hmm. I think what I do is because my dad doesn't speak like English. He doesn't understand me if I would speak to him like this. I have to speak to him in broken English, like a caveman, for him to like understand me. I was like, yeah, no, I go to store and then I go over here, and I can't say it like, yeah.
Like, I went to the store, then after that you'd be like store 5.
Yeah.
Dinner 6 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a little bit more, but like it's basically that level. I can't say where, yeah, you know, there was an adequate level of service at this public restroom where they had hand servicemen. I'm like, I can't say that shit.
Very, not broken down, but very basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you notice you have to like kind of switch your vernacular to, because I do that sometimes so people can understand me better from where I am. Not that you're like, yo, what's up, dog?
Right.
But do you do that to an extent?
I don't think so. I think I've always kind of stood out in the sense that like, and it's such a under backhanded compliment when you hear as a black man, you're well spoken and stuff like that.
It's a fucking slap.
It's a fucking slap in the face. But I do it like I grew up reading. I grew up like people are like, he can read and stuff like that. Did you grow up with your parents?
The best to know about this.
From cover to cover, you read the book from cover to. Did it have pictures or words in it? But no, I think I've been pretty much like I think if I change anything, I curse more If I'm more comfortable.
I think I've noticed more of a code switch around comics. Not that I'm just more raw in myself. I'm just like, we're saying more like abortion jokes. We're making pussy grabbing jokes all the time, just.
I feel like I'm super reserved sometimes when I first meet comics.
Yeah, it's mainly just like, because I only make connections one-on-one. Like, you'll never see me live
In a group, yeah.
But if I'm just with like you and say like Jeff is here, or like other Jeff, but like then I'll start like, I'll just say some offhand shit.
Yeah, because then we're like, that's just Jeff. Yeah, versus like if we're in a group, I'm super quiet. That's also a really funny way that I can kind of tell. I tell my friends or people around me, I was like, if someone ever describes me as quiet or reserved, it means we're not friends. Like that means either like we're not friends. Like, oh, every time Robert's around me, he's super quiet or reserved. He was like, I don't want to be there, or I'm just observing everything. I get super, super quiet when I'm uncomfortable, or I speak on it. If I don't feel comfortable enough, like in that setting, then I'm looking for my exit.
I'm really big on speaking on it, because when people tell me, it's just like, are you serious? It's like, if I didn't like you, I'd literally just tell you. Like, I'm not like afraid to like, I know how to phrase it, because I let people like, hey man, I don't like, because like I have a sister and we're estranged because I don't like her because she's horrible. But like she asked me, she's like, hey, like, can we talk? I was like, no. I was like, I really prefer, like, I'm on vacation in New York and like you have great kids, your husband's awesome. I just think my quality of life is better when I don't speak to you. And I said like, I'm really not trying to hurt your feelings. I just don't like you as a person, and you cause a lot of problems. So maybe we'll talk in 5 years after you've grown up a little bit.
Respectfully.
But I just don't want to be around you. And then she's like, okay.
But I think to a certain degree, people understand. People know themselves, and I say that. This is a contradiction because some people don't. But like I said, as far as like growing up, that's a really big thing. Like I literally, like when my exes try to hit me up, it's like instead of doing like, fuck you, piece of shit, I'm like, hey, look, you were destructive and manipulative for a very long time. I have no concern to ever connect with you, ever. Please don't reach out to me if you ever want to say like, hey, I'm glad that you're doing well. Call God, don't call me.
Yeah. I make sure to try not to sound sarcastic with it too, but on the real, it's just like, it's surprising, like as adults, how many people are not self-aware of just themselves.
It's scary.
It's just like, I went through like a phase where I read a lot of like self-help books, probably like, you could probably find like 100 out there, but I donated like another 100. But it's just like, I'm glad I read those, just because even though it was probably an investment of $1,000 over the years.
You're investing in yourself.
But yeah, but now I'm just aware of just like, it's part of the reason why I do this is because I'm more interested in hearing you speak than you hear me speak, because I can learn when you talk and I can't learn when I talk.
It's I'm 27. I've had to date 6 or 7 different therapists. From I did relationship counseling, all types of therapy, and it helps. The weirdest part is like the hardest battle I think anyone's ever gonna have is confronting yourself, because we all have this idea that we're the main character. And so like Spider-Man gets his ass beat a lot, but he always comes through. Things always work out because he's Spider-Man. He has another episode. So then, when you're the main character, you have that Charlie Brown syndrome. Oh my God, I was like, no, you cause like 60% of your own problems, which is crazy to think about. Like the biggest thing I stressed about in high school was my own fault. Most of my problems are self-made. Most of everyone's problems are self-made.
I think, what did it take for you to realize that? Because I had to like realize like I can only control what I can, like, my actions. So it's just like, a part of the reason is like I don't put myself in situations. Like if we're in a situation where like, say we're buying tickets to the game and you're just like, hey, I'll pay you back for that. I was like, can you just pay me back right now? And then I just
avoid that. Yeah. I'm like that too. People are like, you get weird with money. I was like, no, because people act weird with money. And I, like you said, I don't. Or we'll go out and sometimes, or I already know in my mind, like if a couple of times when people come out to my shows, there's been like 6 or 7 people, and we all go out afterwards. I'm like, hey, I'll just put it on my tab. And because I don't want to deal with like going through, you owe me this, you owe me this. But that's not a regular thing. Like you said, or confronting you up front. And confrontation is not a bad thing. I think there are 2 types of confrontation. There's confrontation of people that lash out because they have that like main character syndrome, and it's supposed to go their way. I'm supposed to always win. I'm the main character. So when shit's going bad, it's never my fault. It's never Robert's fault. It's Jeff's fault. It's the comedy club owner's fault. It's like, you're like, well, why did it happen? I don't know. I don't give a fuck why it happened. I know that I wanted to step on his face when he was on the ground. I know that I was very segmented and thrown around. So my thing was like, what I took from that whole incident was like, how could I have been under more control when all hell broke loose? Because I was like yelling at him. I tried to go run over there and kick the guy on the ground. I had to stop and figure out what I was gonna do with this girl approaching me and my girl and stuff like that. And it was pure chaos. And then like I laughed about it now, but I was like, all things considered, that ended the best way it possibly could. No one, I mean, he got tackled, so like, fuck that guy, yeah, little bitch. But no one got punched, no one was assaulted. We all went home that day, so.
At the end of the day, it's just, you have one less bringer show you can go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no. Like, I was like, and that's what I was explaining to my friend. I mean, he was kind of upset, and he was like, hey, I'm sorry. I was like, sorry about what? Like, this is not a scarcity thing. This is not something where like, damn it, what? Only like 3 clubs out here, and now I can't go to one. And it wasn't even like an ill blood towards like the comedy. It was like, it's not like I don't care. It's just like you said, I can't control any of that. So what are we?
I think there's a big shift from going from like that scarcity where it's just like, oh, I can't go to this one's platform. Let me just get good enough so all the other ones are trying to book me so consistently. Like
when I posted the animation, that clip was from that show. I posted an animation of a stand-up clip I did at that show on Instagram, and 2 shows DM'd me. One back in Chicago, which was weird. It's also weird because they DM'd me in the same thread of like a year and a half ago when I DM'd them, and they just ignored me. And they were like, hey, Robert, we like this clip. Would you love to perform here? And I was just like, so we're just going to ignore the fact that like a year, like the message is right above you.
I think that's the big thing with like photography, because I've had some homies not come to me for photos, and I am not mad at them at all for that, because I'm like, yo, like if you don't think I can help you like with your headshots, that's great. But I was like, yo, what about my shit did you not like that you thought you had to go somewhere else? But one of my friends told me that does it full time. He's like, yo, if you're not, if nobody's coming to you for photos right now, get good. And then they will. So I kind of feel like, yo, if they didn't come for you then, you weren't good then. But now you're good now.
And now, okay, yeah. I was jaded with it. I was so jaded. Like, I'm giving them the runaround right now. Like, I've already set my date in August, but I literally was like making little petty jabs to them. I was texting, I was like, yeah, man, I may be free. My schedule's booking up. No, it's not. Just shit, like, just being petty. Like you said, I should have just took the fact of like, hey, like maybe back, like I said, a year ago, you weren't where you are now. They're like, oh, like that's funny. Let's get this guy. And that's just growth and progression. Like I don't necessarily feel jaded, or even like the day after, I was more confused than anything. I was like, what the fuck happened? Like I said, the funny part was like the guy was like trying to fight me, and I was answering logically. He's like, you think you're fucking funny? Well, shit, I hope so, dude.
The same thing is, I do the same shit. It's just like, I'm not sure if it's a common thing, but like this girl was like asking me, she's like, apologize. Like, bro, I apologized like 7 times. She's like, I don't know if you want me to type. If you send me an email, tell me what you want to say. I'll send you a voice recording of that apology.
And just read the script.
And then like her friend was just like, oh my gosh, you're like, now I know why like XYZ was so mad at you. You're so annoying when you apologize. I'm like, apologize? Just like, I feel like some people just take themselves like way too seriously.
Yeah. So it wasn't, it's funny-ish. I mean, apparently people have had problems with that club. And that was another thing too. Like I'm not, one of my guys talked to me, he was like, we gotta put the word out. I was like, we're not martyrs, right? Like our experience is not everybody else's experience. And then to make people try to cater to your experience is extremely selfish.
Yeah, I didn't even see anything, because you guys both aren't on Facebook. So,
yeah.
So like that, because in the Facebook groups I would have blown up. Like everyone would have been talking about that, because I didn't see a post about it. So I'm like, oh, that's...
Because he said like somebody he talked to, because I posted on my close story. I only have, and it's a very select group. I think I literally even whittled it down. I posted something. I was like super pissed off. We went to a bar, and I was like, I posted something. And I was just like, if you fucking come on, we'll jump your bitch ass, something like that. And like 15 people saw it. And I purposely trimmed it up because I knew it was an angry post. I was lashing out. I didn't want any consequences from it. So I literally went on my Instagram, and my close friends was like 50 people. I trimmed it down to like 15 because I was like, there are no consequences to these 15 people seeing it. So of course, like you reached out, some other people reached out just to ask what happened. I told you guys what happened, and that was the end of it. I was like, we don't have to go on this big thing to be like, boycott them. I was like, for what?
I don't think it says this, but I think it would have just been important to know, because there's comics already feel underappreciated for being the entertainment of the show. Personally, I felt so that would have been just good to know. So it's like, oh, XYZ,
like this happened at this place. Yeah, and you can take that as you want. Yeah,
like but the comic was not defended at all, and it was actually banned after being assaulted.
Here's the information. You can do it. So yeah, he talked to me about that. He was like, we should get our story out there. And like I said, my hope, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. My whole vantage point was, like I said, I was like, my experience is centralized to Robert. That happened to me on this date for whatever reason. So then, like I said, to make you be like, hey, you shouldn't go to that club. I was like, well, if you haven't had a bad experience at that club, that's weird for me. That's like if someone if me and my girl don't work out, I'm like, hey, well, I mean that's different. If
I know what you mean. I kind of think of it as just like, I always let people know, like people ask for like the Van Gogh experience. I make sure to ask them that they're like, what did you think of it first? Because I don't want my opinion to bias you. I was like, personally, a lot of people had a great time there. I thought it was shitty. Like I just let people like, I didn't have a good time at all. I thought it was just me.
And you preface that like, hey, this is my opinion. Yeah. So no, that probably was a better course of action. And then now like time has passed where I was just like, I know other people have had their own experiences. Apparently, when my friend reached out and talked to some people, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, we should." I was like, that's a lot of work to just more or less try to get people to be on our side or fuel anger. And I was like, well, I just kind of don't care anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird. Not trying to get like a protest, but just kind of like, hey, take it what it is.
Like the way you preface that, like, hey, if you're performing at this club, good for you. If you're headlining, congratulations. We should all, I want all of us to headline. I want you guys all to headline. I want you guys all to travel the world. I want you all to get paid $1 million. If you're headlining here, this is my experience. This happened way back when. Take that if you want. Like you said, like, Robert, do you go to Walmart? I prefer Target, but Walmart's by my house. And he's like, okay, cool. I don't like it, but this is why. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like they may or may not show, but I have that in my back pocket for whatever reason. So I just felt like I didn't want to, because I had like no ill will. You can do stuff and still not like I don't not like the owner of the club. I think that entire night he acted real weird and like kind of some bitch moves were done. But I didn't like wake up the next morning like I hope he does and I hope his business fails. Like no, the man's got a kid, he's got a wife. I hope he succeeds and has the best life. I hope him and his wife are happy right now. I hope they're having sex. I hope his son is like beating the new score on Madden and becomes the top man, whatever the fuck he wants to do. It was like that day I just didn't fuck with you guys. Like that was weird. It's like I don't know, like there's probably some stuff like I said or you said that like we're like, yo, that's weird as fuck, Robert. That doesn't mean you don't like me.
I feel that all the time, especially in the group chat. All the time, just like, okay, sorry, I won't say this again. But no, but I feel like it's like that mature point where it's just like there's some comics like I don't like. But I'm like, I hope you're successful so you can bring attention to Arizona and then maybe you can put some other people on and grow the scene up.
Exactly. So like you said, like, do you like him? No, I fucking hate that guy. But I would never, but not in the sense that I want him to do bad. I don't want anybody to do bad. Except maybe like all my exes, I want all them bitches to get hit by a bus with overweight people. But like other than them, I want their families to be okay. I just don't want, I want those specific girls to go through hardships and have the worst life ever. But other than that, like, I don't know, I hope you guys all make $1 million. There's enough money and there's enough success out here. There's no limited thing. That's the weird thing about comedy though. I think people feel like
scarcity.
Oh my God. And it's so fucking cliquey and weird, but that's why. Because people are like, man, if he's funny, does that mean I'm not funny? Like his success, other people's success is not your failure.
I think like because I was at the Brennan Schaub show and he had 4 openers, which is a lot of people to have open. But I'm just thinking like even if you were just like, for example, Akash, he put me on for like just a 5-minute spot.
And I saw that was dope as shit. Yeah.
Even from his just for him doing that, not saying like it made like a substantial difference, but you put that for someone and they put that on, they're like, oh, this person did like a guest spot. This guy's pretty good. And then you can probably get more opportunities because
you can leverage that
association. Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, if he let him on for the guest spot, then why are we not letting him on to do a guest spot or do 10 minutes or do 12 minutes? And it's a weird, I don't know. And that's everywhere. It's not just, in Arizona or in Chicago or in LA. It's very, I want to say networky because it sounds better than saying clicky.
Yeah, I think you just got to manipulate the right ways, post the right things, like because it's weird. Once I was going for that 90 mics 90 days and I was posting about it, I got a lot of shows just from people seeing this guy's at mics a lot because I would just post
grinding.
I just posted my story like you're on stage, just like Mike 37 out of 90 and just tag you. And so and people like it when like I post pictures of them and they'll repost it. So that's even my name getting out there more.
Yeah, like you've cornered them. I've known you. We've known each other what,
a year now?
A year. You've done a lot in a year. I don't know if anyone's giving you your flowers yet. Like you've done a lot. When I first met you, I remember we met at open mic. And I literally, when we first were trying to like feel each other out, I was like, you're funny, but you don't seem to have a stage presence. You seem very uncomfortable on stage and like all this. And I blinked, and before I moved out here, 6 months into this, because I remember I came over here and we shot something, and I was like, oh, you're creative. Like you're a very artsy guy. This is not just, which is another thing, like we can do so much more. Like people just don't do comedy. I'm sure people that do, like, I don't want to do comedy. I was like, yeah, but you probably have other talents that you're not tapping into, like to use to leverage comedy and stuff like that. And in a short span of time, you improved on your comedy expo. Like, he started posting clips, and I was like, yo, this dude is definitely. I told you. I remember I called you before I moved there. I was like, dude, you're getting way better. And then you started doing photography, and then just film this, and I was like, this is literally the core example of what I'm talking about. I was like, you're creative. You have more to offer than just standing on stage and telling a pussy joke or something like that.
I think I appreciate that. I feel like people in the community don't give each other flowers like enough. Not
because it's weird. I don't know why people don't. Like, if I'm doing good, I want to hear I'm doing good. Not in like a validation sense, but like, why would you not tell someone you're doing good?
Like, there's this guy Aldo, and he's been hitting the scene. I think he's like 6 months in, and he's just going to all the mics.
The kid, is he a college kid?
He's a high school kid.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, I saw him because we got the same job together, and I was like, bro, like, I seen you, man. You're getting real good, so like, just keep grinding.
And just the time, like, if we had all done this in high school, imagine where we'd be now. I was like, no, by the time you're 20, you're gonna be doing so much more than all of us have been doing right now. So I was like, the fact that he's in high school, that's amazing. I wish I would have done this in high school.
How do you feel that with, like, when you talk about dipping into the other, kind of cap off with 2 more questions, but like, because I learn different things because I want to be able to create things, but I want to be able to create it more exact to my image, which is why I take up photography, videography. So if I want to make cinema, or I could write and I could direct, and it could be more exact in what I like. Have you tried to dip out? Because at the same time, it is at the detriment of your stand-up, which is what got you started.
My first love is writing. Very few people know this, actually, so that's a really good question. My first love is writing. It's not stand. I think it lends itself to stand-up because then I write these stories and all this, and it's easy for me to write stand-up because I write so much. When I was younger, I've always wanted to be a writer, even now. Like, my goal, I had a small Post-it note before I got robbed in fucking Chicago. It's so fucking cliche, fucking Chicago. But I had a Post-it note, and it was super, super old. It was like a year and a half, or no, I did it when I was like 20 something. And it literally just said, like, my 3 goals at the time were get my TV show on Adult Swim. That's my favorite network growing up.
Adult Swim?
Adult Swim.
That's my favorite shit too, yeah.
I literally said get my show on Adult Swim, pursue stand-up comedy, and I forgot what my third one was. I would know if I did get fucking robbed. But no, writing's first. I as a young kid, I loved comics. So I would do this thing where I would take the copy paper out of my mom's copier, and my parents would get so fucking pissed. I would fold it over and I would make comics. I couldn't draw for shit. But I would write these amazing storylines. And then there was a kid down the street, and I was like, hey, you draw, I write, and we'll start a comic book business. So we're charging 50 cents for comics. And obviously it fell apart for a lot of reasons. I wouldn't pitch it on Shark Tank. One, his name was Kyle. He fucking stole my money. He owes me at least $1.25. So if this ever blows up, Kyle Benson, you owe me $1.25. I've never forgotten that.
The whitest name I ever heard.
Oh, I mean, he was also homeschooled, but
definitely more.
Just cliched white, cookie cutter white. Like, if you had to get, this is Kyle.
Played for the soccer team.
He played. His interests are fishing, and this is our dog Benson.
Yeah, once used mayonnaise as glue. But not going.
But and I've done that ever since. I wrote 2 pilots for shows before I ever wrote a joke. Granted, those pilots are ass. I still have them. I'm back with them. They're terrible. But I keep them because now I told you I gotta write short stories. I just wrote a pilot. I got to write a pilot a month ago. I wrote a treatment for that, and that's so much more fun because, like you said, you're creating a world, and everything that happened, from the lighting to where we're located to what I want to happen. And there's been times where I've written a whole scene, and then months later I'm like, bro, this shit just ass. I deleted it and do it over again.
Have you ever heard of Tim and Eric bedtime stories?
I love those.
That's my image for what I want to create. Like, just that's like that surreal
that format. Yeah. And like, that's the thing I like about Adult Swim, and then that's a network that doesn't necessarily think anything's a crazy idea. Granted, a lot of shows have been on and off that because they didn't succeed, but like
Mike Tyson had his own show. Like come on, Mike Tyson, when he wasn't a big name, it's just Mike Tyson bedtime stories.
I was like, they don't necessarily, and I've watched so many behind the scenes stuff for some of their creators and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we get pitched a lot of crazy ideas, and we say yes to most of them. And I was like, it's a very free. There's no inside the box of like, well, this won't sell on ABC and stuff like that. I've always wanted, and I watched it so much growing up. I've always wanted. That's my number one goal. Is I want to have my show on Adult Swim. That's the goal. And then, like I said, because I write and I like writing and I've gotten so good at it, it lends itself to comedy. It's easy for me to look at something like, that's funny. Why is that funny? How can I deliver that? I know my cadence. I know my pacing and stuff like that. We've even talked about like the little intricacies of like voice inflections, pacing, surveying the crowd and giving everyone the attention and stuff like that. So it makes writing comedy, I think, probably easier than it would have been if I didn't start writing.
No, definitely. Yeah, those pauses can turn a weak joke into a closer.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, like one of my favorite jokes now that you had is the adopted joke. I was so proud of you. It was a weird like father moment when you sent me the clip and you just used a pause and it hit. I literally was in bed because you said it late as fuck for some reason, but I was just like, yeah, like I was like, he did it. It was like a dad in Little League when his son finally hit I was like, oh, that's my Jeff. Hey, he did it. But it hit, and the first time I heard that joke, I was like, that's funny. And then I watched you do it like 3 or 4 times. When we finally talked about it, I was like, that's a funny joke. Don't throw that away. Just literally pause between, I forgot what the one word, and adopt it. And just pause. You gave a 1.5 second pause, hit immediately. I was just like, yes. And boom. Like it's weird how there's so many little things that make any profession go. Whether it be, I mean, when I played sports, it was never, oh, shoot Steph Curry shots. It was literally, I was taught to find your stance.
Pick your spots.
Yeah. So they're like I have a non-traditional shooting form in the sense that it doesn't look like JJ Redick or something like that. But it was literally like find your shot, get comfortable with it, and get comfortable with doing that in the game. And like I said, if you need we called it in middle school, your go-to shot. If we're down by 6 and I give you the ball and I'm like, go get 2 points, where are you going to run to? What is your go-to? And he was like, get 2 of those and you're fine. You can.
Yeah, I think once I learned that, what is it, like a hop step or some shit like that. Once I like that and saw like how Giannis, even Kyrie, how they just rip through, just kind of like, it's really just, instead of just going like this, you're just going like.
Something as simple as.
Yeah, just putting the ball over your head. It's just like you're ripping through. It's just like, I was like getting points like nonstop off of one move, just every time.
I watched something and it translates to everything. So I watched, I'm like, I love Tom Brady and cliche, but one of the biggest things that he did in his career when he got a throwing coach was they changed his release point in the football. It was literally like, hey, instead of letting it go right here, just let it go right here. Mm-hmm. And he's just fucking ripping the ball now. And I was like, what in there's little things like that. And it translates pauses, beats, pregnant pauses. That can change, like you said, a C- set into a B- set just by gaps. Mm-hmm. Just literally gaps in where you're putting them.
Yeah, I think it's like, especially when you've been doing it for so long, because it's always fun to start something new because your improvement is so
chartable.
Yeah. But then when you're Michael Phelps level, like he's doing like 365 days a year just so he can shave a 0.1 second off of his lap. But to kind of go off, so say you watch this in like 10 years, what would you like to expect out of yourself, or what would you like to be?
10 years, I'll be 37. I want 4 seasons of my Adult Swim show. I want all the royalties. Shark Tank.
Do you see yourself more of in like, of course, stand-up? I feel like doing that would only just allow you to do more stand-up because you have the credentials and shit like that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever ban stand-up, but it's not something where like, I know some people are waking up and they're like, I'm going to tour the world with the next Kevin Hart. I was like, I'm not going to be the next anything. I'm going to be the first Robert. My name is so common that I want a situation where you say Robert and people immediately go, he talking about the dude that did the show, and then he did that Robert, like that, where you don't even necessarily need my last name. It's something like, oh, I'm gonna go see Robert tonight. Oh, the hair with the funny guy and the tattoo Robert. Fucking love that guy. So in 10 years, and I'm sure I'll find another project to do. Like, I mean, this has been more of a lifelong thing right now with the shows and the writing. I know I'm going to do something that stays in writing. I'm going to have a show in 10 years. I'm going to look back and be like, I did it. I'm really big on trying to, like, help other people. I mean, I'm not in a position, I feel like, in any of those scenarios to help anybody. I can't be like, Jeff, go headline. You're like, Robert, you go headline. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah.
In 10 years, hopefully, I mean, in a year, hopefully I'll have more credentials enough to be, because I see a lot of talent. I see like this is ridiculous. And you're doing this very self-made. I can only imagine what would happen if a studio was like, Jeff, here's $30,000, go shoot so-and-so, go shoot us a pilot. I can only imagine what you're going to do in a year and seeing how, like you said, how much you did in 6 months. If someone just gave you a studio and was just like, what do you need, Jeff? We'll figure that out. Finance is not a thing. What's your business? Go shoot it. We'll figure this out. That's ridiculous. I want to be able to do, I've seen that. I've seen little Jeff. fucking killing it. He's young. He hasn't been doing this that long. I can only imagine or be able to be like, hey, you go headline, or here's your open spot, something like that. So there's a lot of talent around me. I want the whole team to win, and I want to meet people that like are on the path, and I'm like, oh, I can help you, or you can help me. The guy that I've met so many people that have put me in so many great positions. I'm going out to New York because I know a guy, and he's been like helping me, mentoring me for a year and a half, and now I'm doing 2 shows in New York, like stuff like that. So I think I want to pay it back too. I want to figure out some way to help people.
Fade to black.